that we see around us. Previously, we discussed that matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Matter is no more than continuous, but it is made up of distinct particles. How do these particles exist within matter? And what are their characteristics? Let us try to find answers to these questions in this video. Let me begin by a fun activity. Look at this bottle here. Let us pack it with marbles. The bottle is now full. I also have a packet of sand. But does the bottle have enough space? Okay, let's try. Oh, the entire packet is empty and it fills up the bottle. That's great. Now I have some water here. Let's see if we can still fill the bottle. Oh, it seems we can. Brilliant. But how is this possible? Even though the bottle seems to be packed with marbles, it still had space for sand and water to go in. Space. It's not that space we are talking about. I'm talking about space within matter. Now let me show you how spaces really exist between matter. Look at this beaker filled with water. Let me add a spoonful of salt to it. Oh, the salt seemed to have disappeared. We know that salt is definitely matter, so it has mass and therefore it should occupy space. So the water level should go up. But it seems like nothing of this sort has happened. Oh, so did water molecules eat the salt? No. In fact, water molecules have spaces between them which are occupied by salt particles. So spaces do exist. Just like the liquid, both solids and gases too have spaces between the particles. This brings us to our first characteristic. Particles of matter have spaces between them. Let us shrink you down to explore these spaces. Do you think you can get in between the salt particles? You will look really funny if you try doing that. But you can easily wade through water, which means there is more space between the particles in water than in salt. Now what about the gas particles? You can move your hand through air effortlessly, and you also can move back and forth. Yay! This is even easier. So if we compare all the three different forms of matter, we find that the space between the gas particles is the maximum. It is somewhere in between for the liquid particles and is least for the solid particles. But do you think these particles are still? It is actually as chaotic as our life. To make it clearer, let us play around a little here. Let us take a tumbler with water and add some food color to it. What do you see? The entire water is colored now. This wouldn't have happened if the particles of water were still. This means that particles of water are constantly moving and the food color particles easily mix with water. So this brings us to the second characteristic of particles of matter, that is, particles of all matter are in constant motion. It's easy to understand that particles of liquids and gases constantly move. But what about solids? Yes, the particles of solid too are moving constantly, but not as freely as the particles of liquids or gases. They just vibrate about their own position. A little hard to believe, but it's true. So next time you see a piece of chocolate, remember there are zillions of particles vibrating within. But why is it difficult to break a chocolate? Well, that's because there is a force of attraction between the particles. So the third characteristic is particles of matter attract each other. Though liquids and gases have lots of spaces between their particles which are in rapid motion, they too attract each other. But do particles of all kinds of matter attract each other to the same extent? No. The particles of gases have maximum space between them and lowest force of attraction. The particles of liquid have less space than the particles of gas and have a stronger force of attraction. And the solid particles with the least space between them have the strongest attraction. Now that we have seen all the characteristics of particles of matter, let us draw a comparison between the different states of matter on the basis of the characteristics. Solid. The particles of solid have least spaces between them. The particles vibrate only about their fixed position. Force of attraction is strongest between the particles. We can also say that solids have fixed shape and fixed volume. Liquid. The particles of liquid have more spaces than solid but less spaces than gas. The particles move faster than solid particles and slower than the particles of gas. Force of attraction between the liquid particles is more than that of gas particles but less than that of solid particles. Liquids therefore have no fixed shape but have fixed volume. Gas. The particles of gas have maximum spaces between them. The particles of gas move very rapidly. Force of attraction between the gas particles is the least and therefore they have no fixed shape and no fixed volume. Now that you know so much more about different forms of matter, let us go through the key points once again. Particles of matter have spaces between them. Particles of matter are in constant motion. Particles of matter are attracted to each other. I hope you liked this session and learned something new. To learn more, keep watching the next set of videos.